Member of the Armed Services Committee, the Democratic Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island. Senator Reed, I appreciate your being with us here on State of Play. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much.
You, along with your fellow Democratic members on this Armed Services Committee, are now demanding answers from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth about these poor conditions on board the USS Abraham Lincoln. What do you need to hear from Hegseth, and how do you intend to hold this administration accountable?
Well, we intend to hear what exactly happened. What were the structural defects in the ship, broken plumbing, etc.? What were these crew members going through for 250 days? That is an excessive time at sea, particularly in a combat zone. And we want answers. We also want him to tell us what's ahead. What about our other ships? The George Washington is coming in to relieve the Abraham Lincoln. Is that ship ready to extend further? But most importantly, and this has not taken place, what is their plan? What do they intend to do? How long will it take? What resources do they need? What are the options they're considering? They basically sort of shut us all out. And that's not just Democrats, that's my Republican colleagues also.
And Senator, let me ask you, you make note of the USS George Washington that is now headed to the Middle East that would replace the USS Abraham Lincoln there. It's significant not just because of the change that we'll see excuse me, taking place in that region, but what it means and the vacuum it leaves behind in the Pacific. It'll be the first time that we are without a U.S. carrier presence in that region. Why is that such a significant concern, and what message does that send to China?
Well, it sends a message to China is we're not as prepared as we were to deter any actions you might take that are contrary to the United States. We're sending them the signal that we're missing in action, literally. This is a strategic blunder of the first order, consistent with so many things that Trump has done. His focus on the Americas rather than his focus on the greatest threats we face, which is China and Russia. All of this is strategic miscalculation, very poor plans. They're simply trying to make it up as they go, literally day by day. And that's going to give the Chinese, I think, unfortunately, the notion that they may be prepared or better able to take us on. And that's the wrong message to send to China or to North Korea.
Excuse my interruption. Senator Reed, help me understand this for a second. I think a lot of people watching this conversation are asking the same thing right now. Iran, we know, wants nuclear weapons. North Korea already has nuclear weapons. The president here is effectively siding with Kim Jong Un, who in an extended post that he wrote earlier today described the North Korean leader as unthreatening and respectful. How do you respond to that language about an authoritarian dictator?
Well, the president, in this sense, is delusional. He has this egomania that says every powerful figure in the world must bow down to me. They do that. That's exactly the approach he took to Putin when he took over. The Ukrainians, he dismissed. He said, you don't have the cards, etc. There was this relationship with Putin, and we know how that is going wrong. And it's the same situation with North Korea. Kim Jong Un is not, I think, terribly impressed with Donald Trump, and withdrawing forces from Korea, canceling exercises, plays into his game. So this is just, again, a terrible strategy and a reflection of just the egomania and the self-centeredness of the president. There's no strategy.
I want to ask you, if I can, President Trump told Fox News just this morning that he is, in his words, in no hurry to reach a deal with Iran. He also threatened to bomb the expletive out of Oman if they get in the way of a deal with Iran to manage the Strait of Hormuz. What do you make of this threat to Oman, another U.S. ally? Why this hostility to our friends in that region?
Well, he does not have, I think, a grasp of the situation in detail, of what the options, the real options are. He's floundering around trying to come up with something. And he takes out his animosity, which is constant, on the closest target. He's upset that the Omani have talked to the Iranians, et cetera, but it's all spite. It's all a childish spite. It's not strategy. It's not doing the best for the country. And it threats that are in many cases idle. He's been threatening to destroy Iran, and then 2 days later he says peace is just a few days away.
Right.
This is sending a signal to the Iranians that he's not capable and also not tuned into the real world.
Senator, my time's limited. One quick last question I wanted to ask you.
Yes,
President
please.
Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is said to be meeting today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after leading with Hamas, the meeting with Hamas leadership yesterday. Obviously, he's not a government official. That means that Congress has really no oversight over any actions that he's taking. Why is that dangerous? Is that dangerous?
Well, it is dangerous because he's sort of playing not only his part for the president, but also his part for himself. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, business activities going on in the same spirit that he's talking to other people. So, this is a situation where he does not have like the background. He doesn't have the vetting that's necessary to be an official representative of the United States. And his business enterprises, I don't think, are too far away from any of his sort of strategic discussions. That's wrong.
Senator Jack Reed, Rhode Island Democrat, we very much appreciate you making time to speak to us here on State of Play.
Thank you.